Exactly. What's your thoughts on all the carjacking and the senseless violence going on with the youth around the country? What's your thoughts on that?
Man, first and foremost, I just think, man, people should walk around like boxers, man. Protect yourself at all times, first and foremost. You know what I mean? So even if you're not in the streets and you're not in nothing that you know how to, be alert and this and that. Like I tell people in my family, there's, straight laced citizens. Don't sit in your car on your phone. You know what I'm saying? If you don't got to get gas here and there, don't do it. If you ride by the spot and it look like it ain't right, it might not
Might
be
be
right.
right.
So I advise people to think and protect yourself. As far as when I think about people that's doing that, come on, bro. You out here, you live in the same area I live in, man. It's rough out here. People got their backs against the wall, they stomach touching. Some people, some youngins that's out here, right? Some of them not even in no position to get money by no unconventional ways. Like before I knew how to sell drugs, Holmes, I carried bags at the grocery store. I washed windows. Like, I mean, shoot, we didn't jug soda machines. Like, it was something else that we did other than just saying,
Play
fuck it, I'm
fun.
gonna take this car. You know what I mean? So I ain't gonna bash the youngest that's in it. Like, those crimes, and I'm not gonna justify one crime or another, but them crimes that be affecting people that ain't in the game, like, they're a little bit harder for me to accept. Like I like for an example, I got a family member that's like a brother to me. He was murdered in the streets. It wasn't about drugs or street business, but it was in the streets. You get what I'm saying? So the way that I accept that death, it was painful, but in my mind, this is what happens out here. I got an aunt that was like an aunt that was carjacked. She and for me, that she don't deserve that. Now, not saying that my other family member did deserve it,
Right.
but man, we out here like if a person play basketball and he break his ankle, do you? Oh my God,
Right.
he play
Right. Right.
basketball.
Right.
But
Right.
if you don't play basketball and then you break your ankle, you say, oh, how you do that? So that's my take on that. And when I was coming up, we did some senseless, stupid stuff.
Right.
Just like I ain't gonna do that, but just like
Exactly.
for it to be an epidemic, it just show you that there's a whole lot of other things that they not doing, and now that they doing that, that show you how dry some of the streets is. It's almost like now, if you ain't really, really getting money, it's almost like it's not a middle class in the streets.
Right. Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
you getting money or
You're
you
right.
fucked up.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. If Eyone had the opportunity to sit with the mayor of Washington D.C., Muriel Bowser, and she say, Eyone, give me some advice on how to cure some of these crime and engage some of these youth, man, what would you tell her?
Oh man. All right, nah, but straight up, first and foremost, I would think of what she already done for dudes like us, right? Because there's a lot of dudes like us that used to be a part of the problem, and now we're part of the solution. Can't nobody take that from us, bro.
Right.
So, I would thank her for some of those things that she did, because I've definitely been one of those guys that been doing some work with youth in the city, and I've definitely been able to take advantage of some of the funds that's out there. But if I just had to give my personal opinion, I would say that put a few more guys in some leadership positions. See, a lot of us are being put to work, but a lot of us have innovative ideas. They come from out of them places like prisons that are really think tanks, right? And if you give us some leeway without kind of like policing some of the stuff we do, and I know they've done this, and I know some people have taken advantage of that already, so I don't want you to think I'm naive to that,
Right.
right? But it's some people out here that have proven that they can do this and proven that they can do that, right? But they don't get the resources. And I think that some of the resources that the mayor makes available, some people like us, I think that it's almost a competition to get into that pool. And I think that rat race to get into that pool for some of those resources may hinder some of the things that can be done, which is why I try to do some things privately. But nevertheless, I would definitely say to continue. Like, it's not that I think they're doing that wrong, but continue to get some of these ideas from these people that come from these places that possess the influence to change it. Because for real, home, I don't think you'll ever lock your way up out of violence. You'll never lock your
Exactly.
way up out of this. You're going to have to, no matter how much you do the locking up, you still going to have to double back and do some resource giving, some education. But for sure, if a lot more people that was young and old, right, was able to get into positions, right, because nobody, and I heard the mayor say this in a meeting I was in, she said, I don't walk around with jobs in my back pocket. See, a lot of people say, give us some jobs. She said that, and that kind of made sense. So what I think is that a lot of dudes that can be influential in these places, that the mayor, if she had to, she could get some of them some more opportunities and to really, really get to some of the people that had the influence. I'm not gonna knock nobody that got the influence or got a first hand dib to get to someone's ear, right? But I will say that I think that some people masquerade as having certain type of influence, when in all actuality someone else has that influence. And if that person and those people could really practice and implement some of their ideas that may not fit the status quo, that you may see a change. If you want to keep getting what you've been getting, I think you can keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to get something different, you might got to try something different. It's a lot of dudes that just came home, Slum, that was able to, man, no exaggeration, control whole prisons without the lifting of a finger. Yeah, you know, people can say, "Oh, them dudes old, don't nobody care," but you'll be surprised how many dudes that other dudes look up to that these guys respect. I'm not gonna say nobody a son, so I ain't gonna say the dude that your big homie somebody else's son, but your big homie take influence from somebody else sometimes.
Exactly.
You feel me?
Exactly.
All of us.
Exactly.
So I mean, you know, that's just me trying to answer that because
Right.
I ain't got all
Right.
the answers.
Right. Yeah. You know, that's why your perspective. You got a deep perspective. So I was curious of that. Right. You wrote a hell of a book, man.
Thanks.
For those not familiar with it, the Lorton Legend. You can find it.
You can get Lorton Legends on Amazon.com.
Okay.
Just type it in.
So I'm assuming this is the book that inspired the documentary, the Lorton documentary.
See, a lot of people
I'm
think that.
assuming that. But my question is, how did you, Sean, and my man Kareem come together to put that documentary together?
Man, the way I remember it, right? We got a homie by the name of Terry Miles. Shout out to him. He doing big things down in
Miles
Atlanta.
Yeah, be DMing me all the time.
messing
Man.
with
Workhorse too.
Master P, all
Yeah,
other type of people,
yeah.
all type of movies. You know, check Terry Miles out.
Right.
Silverback Films, I believe is how he said it. T Mills. But anyway, Terry Miles, I want to say he kept talking about him having an idea about doing a Lorton film or a documentary or something. I believe that him and Sean bumped into each other. They had a conversation about it. And I know that Sean definitely is the one that called me and said, "Hey, I had an idea and we could do this and do that." And then, you know, Twin came in. But COVID again blew a rack of things up. But we had started doing things. I know me and Twin, shout out to Kareem Mowat and 100 Films, right? You know, because he
always
really,
working,
right. He the muscle
Twin.
behind that Lorton film. But nevertheless, he had a collection of all the stuff that we had already been doing. And I guess, you know, as time went on, he was deciding in his head that he wasn't going to let COVID kill the project. And he ended up compiling, and what I believe was actually an incomplete thing, because we got so much other stuff. Like the stuff that we thought was gonna be the meat and potatoes of that is not even in that film. I would list, you know, I would say that here first, right? And I still think that we made a complete film, right? But some of the things that we was doing, like a lot of times I hear things, you know, you got naysayers. So I heard people say, you didn't put this in, you didn't put that in. It's so many things that we thought about just like somebody else thought about that just couldn't make the cut. But that's how that really went down, you know. And we walked around and we talked to a lot of people that we respected. We even talked to Kurt Frazier about this idea in the beginning. He gave us all type of input on things that we was doing. You know, Chastity, of course, said a lot of people. But I believe that we all had ideas of things that we wanted to do pertaining to Lorton. As you can see, my book 13 years old. So I don't even got to talk about how long ago I've been interested. My book is done immortalized my interest. But that's how I think we came along. And then Twin put his special magic. You know, he got a unique style. He put his signature on it, and we got it. And we really was guerrilla marketing the thing, bro. Like we didn't make no plans to do nothing. It evolved, huh?
Yeah, 'cause I seen the old legend from DC that's doing a lot of work, and the PG Calvin Hawkins had y'all was on Channel 5. What was y'all talking about on that?
Shout out to Calvin Hawkins.
Man. Yeah, he doing
and
work
now
out
that you
there.
done brought that out,
Yeah.
since we segueing through the joint off the Lorton book, I want to send a big shout out to Calvin Hawkins. But my connection to Calvin Hawkins actually came through Eddie Mathis, right?
Okay.
And I'm kind of glad Calvin spoke about this on the news the other day, because I thought it was something that we couldn't talk about, right? But Calvin Hawkins himself, who is the at-large council member for Prince George's County, was in Lorton. So like when we standing up there and we talking about where we've been and what we've done, and Twin is a director, me and Sean are authors, we also advocates. James Carpenter was up there with us, we're gonna get into what I'm talking about. You know, we come from backgrounds of things that people said that we was done. I mean, Calvin Hawkins did a real bit in Lorton. right? And now he's in that position, and he's giving us a platform and an opportunity to not only express ourselves, right, but represent everything that we came from, everything that we left behind us. And what brings us to Calvin Hawkins of Prince George's County is that Eddie Mathis is really over top of some of the reentry efforts out of Calvin Hawkins' office. I don't want to say all of them because I want to send a big shout out to B.J. Page and Michael Williams. They are there in Angela Alsabrook's office doing some of these same things, and we look to partner with them. B.J. Page, right? And we have an organization called CORES. CORE stands for Community of Reentry Service. So CORES basically is me, Sean, Eddie, James Carpenter, and it's underneath Calvin Hawkins. So we're doing some of the same work that people like me and you and Rat Mike P doing DC. We're gonna take it out there to the surrounding areas in Prince George's County. I'm not gonna say we're gonna get
ward. Y'all go
to the ninth ward of Prince. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like I don't know if we're gonna have to venture as far out somewhere as like maybe a Bowie or a Seabrook, but for sure places like Capitol Heights. Sea Pleasant, Forestville,
Oxon Hill,
all that stuff where for real, you don't even have to push the imagination and say, yo, such and such live here, they moved right across the street and they went to school over here. At this point in time, like, don't make me get into that. Like how you got that history on a lot of that DC culture and fashion. Don't make me go into the history of most of us came from Maryland and Virginia anyway before it was a DC. So if you can trace your lines back and your peoples really came from up here, your peoples came from somewhere around. DC was created. So, let's not act like people's family hasn't been living in both. I could take you back to slave days where people had to exert their slave rights one step away from a different part of their land. Like you had land in the Riggs, Northeast area, that some of the land set in Northeast, some of the land set in Maryland, and the slave had to claim, yo, I live on the DC side. So this border thing has been an issue for DC history since before the 1800s. But that's
you jewel dropping here, man. You jewel dropping, man.
But for sure, but that's what we're doing in Prince George's County. Shout out to Calvin Hawkins. Keep a lookout for the community, the reentry service. We trying to start working on helping some of these dudes come home, right? Because if we can't help the dudes that come home after us, right? What that's gonna do for the dudes that's still in, that's coming home. Yeah, people say, oh, who cares? They're in prison. You should care because the same joker that got that joint on your face saying get out your car, if his circumstances are different, he may not be that person that's doing that. And I ain't saying that there's somebody, we got to do this because you're going to be in fear. I ain't fear-mongering, but I'm saying we helping. If a person had an alcohol problem, we going to get them alcohol help. This person got some other problem, which is why he's saying get out your car.
Okay. All right, man. Shout out to the legend, man. Eddie Mathis. He said you working on Maryland, man, so I ain't mad because you're supposed to be on the couch. So if you working, we're going to wait till you get get some vacation time, man. Hey, I'm going to name a few names. Just give me your thoughts about them or any knowledge you might feel that you know about them. Cadillac was one of the DC prisoners in the feds.
Legendary gangster.
Vernon Cooper.
A little older legendary gangster.
Tony Lewis Sr.
Definitely legendary, but I'm not going to call him a gangster. Not that he couldn't have been a gangster. I'm not going to disrespect his image of what I see him as now. He's definitely legend. He's definitely a big homie. And I believe he just represents some of the gentleman side of the streets. But if I had to make a list of gangsters, he would be on my list. For anybody get it wrong. But Tony Lewis, I don't see him as representing gangsterism. Like he's representing change and reform, and we need to get him out of prison. And we don't need to make him synonymous with nothing that is gangster. He came from the he didn't tell, and he survived. So if you came from Hanover in Washington, D.C., and you was a millionaire, you couldn't have been a pushover. So don't misconstrue me not saying gangster.
Right, yeah.
But that is gangster.
All of them have to be gangster. That's your thoughts on them. Free Tony Lewis, man. Free Tony Lewis, definitely, man.
Yeah, free Tony Lewis.
Michael Fray.
Oh, man, I looked up to Fray. I consider Fray family, you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I don't even call him Michael Fray, you know what I'm saying? That's Michael Sawdust. A lot of them call him Mike. I say Fray because everybody else say Fray and
Horse
collar,
Fray
Bean. But definitely I'm going to consider, man, him one of the most legendary dudes I ever met in my life. And anything that I did regarding the subculture, I aspire not necessarily to be like him, but to have those type of principles. People say gangster stuff about Fray. I done a lot of research on him. He came up, he got some hard points, but Fray was also a thinker, a chess master, and a lot of people that knew him, like shout out to Wookie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a partner of Fray, and I consider him family as well. And one of the smartest people I ever met my whole life too.
Mm-hmm.
Streets, school, I wouldn't care what you say. He could sit down on it's academic. He'll burn you up in jeopardy. But he's
Right.
known as being a street guy, right?
Right.
And he always said, because a lot of my memories about Fray come from childhood. So I can't talk to you about no
Right.
street stuff.
Right.
But as an adult, once everybody, pretty much knew whatever I was, right? And that go for Greg Royster and Wookie and Eddie Mavis and different dudes that know Fray. They tell me stories about him just being able to think. It reminds me of the stories I read about people like Henry Ford. He wasn't the smartest person ever, but he put a team around him that's created what it's for. And I think Fray did some things like that when it came to street guys. He had dudes around him that was rougher and tougher than him, but in his circle, he was a brain. And I think that that's what some of the street culture is missing. Like the street culture is an element that's gonna be here. It ain't never going nowhere. It's a part of America, Holmes. But when dudes that was in position in the streets that had influence like him and other guys like him, I think that everything wasn't to do something that was going to hurt somebody. I think they left a lot of legacy behind that wasn't just about violence. That's why I don't think we consider some of their legacies based on how many bodies they got.
Right,
like some of these dudes, you don't even know them for hurting nobody.
Exactly.
They known for getting money, making something happen.
Exactly.
I think that's a lot of the part that's missing, like, as far as honor and class and things like that.
Right. Is there anything that we talked about today that we didn't touch on you want to speak on before we close out?
I think we pretty much talked about everything, but just to stay on point with what the things that I'm definitely doing, right, is for sure, I appreciate you for having me on here, but I do want to send a big shout out to Kareem Moe out of Sean Branch for, just showing that, everything doesn't have to be about an individual accomplishment. These guys showed me that we could do something together without even signing a piece of paper, Holmes. Like, that's rare these days. So I want everybody to go check out that Lorton Prison Terror documentary. And we didn't get into it, so just briefly, I would like to speak on the DC Blacks thing, because I ain't going to when you asked me about it. And I only spoke about how it's a derogatory term that, the feds did. But the process of me taking that term to create a support system for the homies was that now we had this DC Black thing, me and people that supported me backed me in creating it, and now we turned DC Blacks into a nonprofit that actually help the homies that's on their way out. And I think that that's some of the each one teach one, each one help one philosophy that we really got to do. So, I want people that if they see that DC Blacks thing out there, I want them to understand that we not representing no gang culture. We not representing even what they make us out to be in the feds. And when they talk to us, yeah, sometimes when I tell the story, I go into those things just so people get the idea of it. But for real, we were people that was banished. We the only nomadic prisoners in this country that have nowhere to go. That's why we've been banished to the feds, right? But if we don't look out for each other, right? And now, like I said, because you asked me the question about the mayor, there's some things and some money and some resources allocated for people coming home, right? But we got enough dudes like me and you and other dudes that's doing stuff out here that can generate attention, that can generate funds, and we can help our own. We ain't got to be begging the government to put us up nowhere, give us no job. You know what I'm saying? Once I'm in a position where I can hire one person and 10 people and so forth and so on, and all of us doing that, then we good. So I just want to, say, free the real. And that, if you got a person that been in them type of situations, don't forget about them people that's in prison, man, because a lot of us that was in prison end up returning. And if we don't return to something that to give us some type of substantial ability to really succeed, then we just become another problem again. I want to be a part of the solution, Slow.
Okay, man. We close out. I always like to think of a jewel from this to the top of the conversation. I just want to say that when I think of you, I think of perseverance. You know what I'm saying? You're a good example of that.
Thank
you know what I'm saying? So to all the youth out there, even the adults out there, man, listen to his story, all things he shared, and let you know that the fight is never over. Just keep on fighting. You talk about man that went through juvenile detention, adult detention, federal, and he's still out here pushing, swinging. We ain't talk about him being a credible messenger. We talk about a little bit. The man wear a lot of hats, and whatever you're doing, just keep on fighting, keep on pushing, and get to that top, man. And again, man, Eyone, happy to have you, man, on Changing Jewels, man. And make sure y'all go get this Lorton Legend joint right here and support the Lorton documentary. And make sure you subscribe to Curtbone TV.
Out the park, niggas know me. Curtbone, little homie. All days, yeah.
Look, man, make sure y'all log on to Curtbone TV. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share it with a friend. I'm going to keep on bringing y'all interesting content, interesting interviews. I'm going to even let y'all think of topics to give me that we can talk about. I'm going to start going live. But what I need y'all to do is hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications, share it with a friend. Remember, Curtbone TV.